All right, here it is, episode number 40 of the Grail, and we are going to be talking Porsches today with the king under the hood, or in this case, the trunk, because that's where the motors are located on the great 911s, Mr. Marco Gerace, owner of TLG AUTO. This man is an absolute master at working on all things air-cooled, and he knows tons of stuff about the car, so it was great to sit down and talk to him. If you are one of those people that sees somebody in a Porsche and you're like, look at that dick, rich dick, that is the wrong frame of mind. If you see somebody driving something they love, just give them a shout out, like, good for you, man. You got something you dig. I never understood that thing of chopping people down that have like a car that they love, a Porsche, a Ferrari, a Lamborghini. It's really bizarre to me. It's some kind of strange jealousy at the same time, small-minded human just shouting out at someone coming by, you dick! Anyway, I absolutely love the Porsche. And I always have since the 6th grade when my 6th grade teacher, Miss Foster, got a root beer Targa. I fell in love with it. The smell of the interior, the shape of the car, the lines, the sound, air-cooled me coming from the BMW motorcycle and Harley-Davidson world. Just the simplicity of this and always being the same. The Porsche 911 is the ultimate car to me. No doubt about it. And if I had the money right now, I'd have the brand new one, like a GT3 Touring. It was great to talk to Marco. We talk all things 911s, and also we talk a little Grateful Dead in here and the history of Los Angeles. He is a comedy fan and a friend of mine, and I cannot thank him enough for doing the show. And I can't thank you guys enough for tuning in every week. We are on number 40, and it's been going pretty damn solid. A little pet project of mine, the Grail, featuring people like Marco. Thank you. Please subscribe to the show and leave a review. And if you are in New York, I've got 3 shows tonight. 2 at the Stand, 1 at the Cellar. I will be at Foxwoods Casino tomorrow with the great Bill Burr. And then back Saturday to New York City, winding out my week out here with 7 shows at the Stand. And then I head back home and keep grinding. That's all you can do. Monday on Let There Be Talk will be the Cow Palace, the history of the Cow Palace, with a man who was in charge of a lot of stuff there. So you guys are going to enjoy that. If you like architecture, you like rock and roll, and you like history, you are going to want to hear the Let There Be Talk episode on Monday. One more thing, please subscribe to The Grail and leave a review on iTunes, and make sure you check out my YouTube channel, Dean Del Rey, and my Patreon channel for tons of bonus episodes and Zoom Fest, patreon.com/Dean Del Rey. I cannot thank you guys enough for taking the ride with me. I love you all. Candles are lit. Let's get into a little Marco and some car talk.
My name is Marco Gerace, owner-operator of TLG AUTO in North Hollywood, Porsche service and repair, restoration.
Yeah, and how long you been doing that? All your life? How old are you?
I'm 36.
36?
Born into it. My dad was a Porsche mechanic, since he was like 16.
No shit?
Yeah, so he was in it for 50 years. He passed away a few months ago, but I worked with him side by side steadily for the last 15 years, at least, if I did the math. But I grew up in the shop.
Yeah.
So, I grew up in Porsches, around them, cars of all types, off-road desert racers, motorcycles. Anything had a motor, that's what my dad was into.
How did your dad, at 16 years old, how did he start up with Porsche?
At 16, he basically needed a job.
Yeah. So at 16, where you guys grow up?
My dad's from the East Coast. He grew up in Hollis, Queens.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, he was kind of the third child removed from his next youngest sibling by like 12 years.
Yeah.
So he was kind of like an only child. Grew up basically on his own. His parents were older, and so he got into a lot of trouble. But he was always very good with his hands, and so he was into things that made noise and were cool, you know. So cars.
Yeah.
Growing up on the East Coast, there wasn't a whole lot of Porsche stuff or anything like that. He was into Mustangs, Camaros.
Muscle car, vintage
he
muscle.
Was an American
Mopar.
car guy. Yeah.
Yeah, like Rod Emery was saying that 90% of the Porsches are sold in California. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, like a ton. Over the years, North America has been like their biggest market.
Yeah.
Compared to the rest of the world, the majority of cars came to North America. And of that, per capita, it seems like there's a concentration in the Southern California area,
Right.
California in general. I think it's the climate's conducive to that.
Yeah.
You know? So my dad, was a motorhead from day one. He told me stories about like his first engine pull was when he stole his cousin's car
Yeah.
and just ripped the motor out under a tree, dug a hole and dropped the motor in it and covered it up and then put like a big block in the car.
What?
Yeah, it was like a 55 Chevy.
Stole his own cousin's car?
Yeah.
People stole cars back in the day. Remember that?
They did, yeah. But
like,
I mean, at least he stole from his cousin as
Yeah.
opposed to like some random person, you know?
that's worse, I think.
I don't know. She
Family.
Didn't care. She didn't care.
Right.
So that's how he got his start, like doing car stuff. One day he just went into a garage and he was like, "Hey, I need a job." They're like, "Here's a broom."
Yeah.
And so he liked to tell the story that they gave him a job to do and he did it, and then he would just sit around and do nothing. And the guy comes up and goes, "Hey, man, if the boss sees you sitting around, you're gonna get in trouble." He's like, "Well, I already did my job." He's like, "Well, then ask what to do next, right?"
Yeah.
And so my dad asked what to do next, and then finally they put a wrench in his hand and he showed proficiency. And he was just a naturally gifted mechanic. And when the time came to make a decision about what to do, he's like, "Well, I could work on Chevys or, whatever, but I'd rather work on Porsches. I have more fun with it." So that's kind of how he steered his career towards Porsche.
Now, that starts on the East Coast.
Yeah.
He's out there. And does he start owning? Does he own one at the time? Or why did he get into them? Why did he like them more? Was there more money involved? Did he like the European flavor?
That's more his speed. It was never about the money.
Right.
Dad, I mean, money's important because you need it to live. But like money was never a driving force for him. It was always what he enjoyed, right? And he enjoyed working on Porsches. His boss had a 59A. That was my dad's first car. He bought a 59 Porsche coupe from his boss.
Is that a 356?
356.
Right.
And then he proceeded to wrap it around a tree.
Wow.
And he was so embarrassed that he never told his parents, and he just kept paying the car off, and it was wrecked.
Oh.
Yeah. So that was his first introduction to like his own Porsche. After that, it was mostly like VWs with hot rod motors, like 912 motors or 356 motors that he hot rodded.
A lot of people were into that, and that was a big California thing in the 80s. You get a VW, you get the dual Webers,
Right.
You know what I mean? You trick it all out. Those kind of just beautiful bugs where you just took the trunk off and you just see the chrome back piece there and the Webers, everything.
Cal look.
Yeah, and everybody was way into that. And you could do it for like $1, you know, right? Back then.
Back then, bugs were cheap.
Yeah.
They were everywhere.
Everywhere.
They're
It was
like-
just a hippie mobile. Just, deadheads drove them. My mom had one because we were poor. And that was the car that poor people drove, right?
That's why I drove one in high school. My dad gave me the choice. He's like, "You're 16. You can build it or buy it."
Yeah.
And I was broke. I had no money. So for $300, we bought a Bug.
Yeah.
A seized motor. That was my first motor I ever built for myself. It was a 1600cc Bug motor. And then I pulled good grades, and our friend put an interior in the car. And that was my ride. My friends had Mustangs, Camaros, brand new Hondas.
Yeah.
I had a Bug.
Yeah. Those things are bulletproof, man.
I proved that with that car, man.
So your dad's, he's just tweaking on Bugs, VWs and stuff?
Yeah. I mean, he was a Porsche mechanic, and he was a European car mechanic.
In New
back
York?
East,
Right.
Back east. He got
Where
a job.
at?
I want to, I didn't really ask him too much about that stuff when he was around, but I know he had a job at a dealership out on the island, somewhere on Long Island. But he wasn't there for very long. He came out here, I want to say in his mid-20s, like 24, 25. What he did was he had a Bug with a 912 motor. He packed all his tools and stuff in it, and with a buddy drove across the country on vacation.
Wow.
So
What's he coming out here for? Just that California
straight up
thing?
vacation, man.
Wow.
He's like, "I got time, I got money, I'm out." So he drove. It was February, he drove across the country in February in a bug with his buddy.
Yeah.
And he gets to California, and it's 75 degrees and sunny. He literally got here on a Friday, looked around and said, fuck it, I'm staying.
Wow.
Called his family and friends back home and said, sell everything, I'm not coming back. And he was on vacation till he died.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he lands out here, and what year is that era? Like 60s?
No. My dad was born in 50, came out here in like 74.
Oh, wow.
So he was 24.
So straight up just 70s is going on out here, you know?
Yeah.
And where does he land? Sherman Oaks, Van Nuys?
Exactly. He landed in Sherman Oaks, Van Nuys area.
Yeah.
His friends from the East Coast had already come out here, so he's like couch surfing with some buddies. Like I said, he came on a Friday, loved it so much, he searched the want ads and found a job at a dealership on Monday and was hired.
A Porsche dealer?
Porsche dealer.
Wow.
Hired him on Monday. Merlin Olsen, Porsche Audi.
Where is that at?
That was in Encino back in the day.
Wow.
Like, you know where, there's a Mercedes dealership on Ventura Boulevard.
Yeah.
Used to be the Porsche dealership, from what I can remember. Like, I was around, so I don't know.
So he lands out here. He's working at a dealer. And then what, meets your mom or whatever?
Yeah, so like the story is that they met on the disco circuit.
Wow,
the
was
San Fernando Valley disco circuit. They
just out there, just lit up for Saturday Night Fever.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
that's how
right.
It went.
Gold chain around the neck.
Big medallion.
Butterfly collars, right?
Even then, like if you look at recent photos of my dad, like in the last year or so, he still didn't button that top button. Just like 70s chest hair, like the whole deal. He never ever buttoned that top button.
Yeah, just Magnum PI and disco and all that stuff, man. It's
so they met on the disco circuit in the Valley, and he was working for dealerships at the time. And eventually he just got sick of, so he left Merlin Olsen and went to Fulmer Porsche Audi, but Fulmer was way out in Riverside.
Right. Oh, fuck that.
He was
did he
making
move?
Commute. No, he was making a commute.
He was making the commute.
Well, back then there was no traffic.
Yeah, but
still, it was so far away. My mom got in a car accident, and it took him forever to get back.
Wow.
And he's like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
And so he quit he quit Fulmer and used the money that my parents got from their wedding, and they opened TLG.
Now, TLG's always been in the same spot?
No, this is our third location in almost 40 years. So
and tell me what TLG stands for.
my mom's name, so my dad's name is Tony.
Right.
My mom's name is Lois, and our last name is Gerace.
Right.
So TLG.
So where's the first location?
The corner of Coldwater Canyon and Moore Park Street, right
there.
Right next to the Little Brown Church. It used to be a Golo gas station.
And does he buy the building or does he rent a building out?
So the gas station, you know how sometimes they got the shop in the back?
Oh, yeah.
So he rented the shop space.
And he's going to be solely a Porsche mechanic on his own.
That's what he wanted to be, but obviously when you first start a business, you take what you can get, right? Whatever rolls in the door. But he was primarily Porsche. That he's factory trained as a gearbox and engine mechanic. When he was in the dealer network, they put him through the schools. So, that was his specialty. But my dad, like I said, naturally gifted. He could fix anything.
Yeah.
He could fix your water heater or your Buick.
I love guys like that, man. My buddy's dad was like that. He'd be like, he'd build a boat in his fucking garage.
Yeah.
And then the next week, he's rebuilding his 74 Silverado pickup or whatever. He's got the motor out. Then he decides to paint the thing. He can paint perfect.
Yeah, right.
Then he'd weld your bike back together when you fucking crack the forks or whatever. The guy was just like Superman. There's dudes like that. You see him in metal shop and wood shop and stuff, you're like, holy shit, it's so bizarre to me. It's like when somebody sees me do jokes or write songs, they're like, how do you do that? And I'm like, well, how do you fucking, whittle that goddamn wood into like just crown molding or whatever,
Yeah, right. Well, see, you have a bike background, right?
Yeah.
So check this out, right? My dad, he and my mom had an apartment in Sherman Oaks. And he had a 69 Sportster.
Yeah.
All right?
Ironhead.
I still have it.
Whoa, you do?
I still have it. It's in pieces. But anyway, so it's like he got this bike and it needed to be rebuilt. So he took it apart, and in his living room after work, he built this motorcycle. Literally built the bike on the second floor of a Sherman Oaks apartment.
Wow.
And couldn't get it outside.
Oh, no.
He couldn't get it out the door. I had to disassemble half the bike and carry it down the stairs and like put the forks back on, put the wheels back on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like he's that kind of guy, he was always into building stuff, and he built himself a bike. He rode that bike for years. And then in 1979, he took it apart and put it in the garage. My parents bought a house in Canoga Park at that point.
Yeah.
Put the bike in the garage in pieces and bought a shovel head. I was a 79 shovel head.
Great bike.
And
AMF era. I mean, terrible, but you know.
Terrible, but great. Like, they were ubiquitous, right? They were everywhere.
Yeah.
And so he bought this shovel head and he took it apart and he repainted it and he built it over again. And that was his bike for like 15 years. I got old enough to really care about bikes. He's like, well, I still got the Sportster. And so we took it all out of the garage and laid out every piece. I think he was missing 1 or 2 bolts.
Yeah.
I mean, it has a Smith's chronometric tack.
Whoa.
Still has a magneto. Still has 2 tanks. It's got a peanut tank and a big tank.
Yeah.
And it still has the paint that he put on it in 1975 or 77.
Wow.
Whenever he first built it. So it's like, some leftover stuff from my old man,
Yeah. So he's in the first spot, and does the place start picking up? Like, how's it picking up now? How is he does he get any like clients that are like, oh man, this guy's the fucking goods?
So that's kind of what happened. Like my mom being young and my dad being young, they were hustlers, right?
Yeah.
So like, I don't mean hustlers as in like underhanded shark.
No, not at all.
They were just hustling to make a living and start a family and whatever. So they got this place, and my mom runs out to the gas pumps and goes, hey, if you need anything, we have a shop in the back, and she starts hustling at the gas pumps. And every once in a while, a Porsche would come by, and, guys would say, oh, you can fix this. And my dad would say, yeah, I can fix it. And he would fix their car for cheap,
right?
And he'd fix it right the first time, and boom, they went off. And some of those clients are still our clients today.
Wow.
Yeah. We still have 3 or 4 of those guys. I mean, we're talking 40 years later. These guys still have their cars, and if they don't, they have other cars, but they're still friends and clients, which is really cool. But the building came up for sale. The gas station came up for sale, and my parents couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
And so they moved. And they moved up to right at like Fulton and Sherman Way.
Right.
There's a gas station on the corner, and then just east of that, there's a row of shops. And my dad had the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th or 5th bay. The first 2 were the actual shop, and then one was storage for motors and parts and whatever.
Yeah, back then that shit was so cheap too. All this shit in the valley, you could have like $250 a month for each one.
Exactly,
it's crazy, right?
Right, but the thing is, the kind of business that my dad operated didn't need a frontage, didn't need Main Street frontage, and the rent was going up, and he was still making good money. The cars were coming from everywhere. He had a really decent reputation. But he didn't need the frontage, so he moved the shop to where we are now, which is the 3rd location.
Which is like completely in the fucking battle zone of like industrial.
Yeah, it's hidden. Like it
really is. Like as you fly in on Southwest and you look down, I always look out the windows and I looked at because I fly every week, and I look and I go, look at all that fucking shit going on out there.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's insane how much shit is going on in the valley,
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, there's got to be a lot of meth making out there, some weed growing, a bunch of illegal shit, man. When you just look at that, it's a landscape of like, what is out there?
Warehousing.
Yeah.
Like what he realized was he needed more space that he could control, right? As opposed to being separated by walls.
Right.
So he found a warehouse that was undivided, and it was a huge warehouse. And he and a friend and another friend with a shop, the 3 of them, made a deal with the landlord to go in, and the deal was they would subdivide the property for the landlord, and then rent it, and they would manage it and whatever. And over the years, the property's changed hands twice. Unfortunately, we didn't buy it,
right?
But we've been in this location since 1987 or 88.
Wow.
So, almost 30 years in the same spot, which is pretty tough to do these days.
Yeah. Hell yeah. I was talking to Rogan and he knew you guys. He's like, oh, you went to a great guy, man. That guy's great. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. We try to stay like undercover, but not unfindable.
Right.
We just don't need to be like a drive-by shop where people go, oh, hey, let's see what's in there, because the cars, the whole landscape of the Porsche scene has changed a lot. They're not as inexpensive as they once were. People don't just have one of the old cars. Usually they have multiple old cars.
Right.
And it comes down to, we like our privacy.
Yeah.
If you need us, you know where to find us. And so that's the kind of business we run.
At what point do you come on board? You've been there 15 years. Or did you seek out other shit and be like, I don't want to be like my dad and be a fucking Porsche mechanic? No, you were in.
I wanted to be I'm like a daddy's boy. Like I'm a boy's boy, right?
Yeah.
Like growing up, I wanted to be just like my dad.
Yeah.
My dad was the coolest guy I'd ever met.
Was he making you go-karts and shit like that when you were young?
Yeah, I mean, I was more into like bicycles and stuff because we didn't have a lot of money. We were just working class family. But I would go to the races with him, and as an infant and a toddler and whatever, I grew up around this stuff. So, I would get rides in turbos, and I'd get rides in off-road buggies, and I'd get rides on ATCs and all that stuff. And I was young, but it got me. Like, I wanted to be a motorcycle kid always. Race dirt bikes and whatever. And I showed some proficiency at it, but we just never had the money or the time to pursue that.
It costs crazy money to race.
It does.
Like family, like you got to have 2 bikes. If you're not a mechanic, you got to have a guy, and then you're traveling every weekend, and it's insane. And where were you riding? Did you have a bike?
Bicycle. I had a couple of bikes, but like my dad would do with cars, he would build them, drive them for a year or two, and then flip them, and then build another one. Right?
What kind of cars? Porsches?
Always Porsche.
Yeah.
Always Porsche. And I would do that with bicycles. I'd buy a bicycle frame, and I'd buy 2 or 3 other bikes. I'd strip them and use.
Where were you into? Like BMX, right?
Oh, yeah, BMX
like
stuff.
Old red lines, mongooses and shit.
I had GTs, Robinsons.
Yeah.
My favorite, I think, was my Auburn.
Yeah.
It's an old 2-piece frame BMX bike. I bought it with a cracked rear section, and I bought a new rear section for it. And then I scavenged some 3-piece cranks, some profile cranks, some SE landing gear forks. I mean, I still remember this bike like it was yesterday. It was the best I ever had.
BMX is just so incredible, and all that.
Back, too.
Oh, it's huge.
Huge.
And all that shit was made here in in LA. Like I love Redline, and I also love this company, GJS, was my favorite of all time. And then, of course, SE and Panda and all that shit. I race BMX,
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and so it's just, look, I got one sitting right there.
I noticed it when I came in.
Yeah. So it's like such it's so in my blood,
So my next door neighbor in our building, right, in the building next door is a company, Valley Relics Collection.
Oh, is that next door to you?
Well, the owner owns the place next door, which is a T-shirt company.
Right, I'm dying to go to Valley Relics.
Yeah, man. And anyway, so his name's Tommy.
Yeah.
Great guy, Tommy Galinas. And, he's a Valley guy. And he made it his business to, like...
He's got like Bad News Bears shit.
Exactly. Yeah. Preserve the Valley history, but he's also a huge BMX collector.
Yeah, he's got him at the show. I talked to Danny Boy. I had Danny Boy on here from House of Pain, and he's good friends with him. He told me all about it. I'm dying to have him on the show.
Oh, come by, I'll introduce you.
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
He's a great guy.
And then I got to go to this Valley Relics place. But he called him while I had him on the show.
It's funny because if you go to my shop, right next door, there's a big ass Arby's sign.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is that doing there? Or there's like Helm's Bakery truck.
Yeah.
And it's like stuff that he's collected or had donated that's making its way up to the Valley Relics collection.
Yeah, you and I should go together one day.
That'd be great,
It'd be cool,
man.
man.
Into it.
Yeah, let's do that because I heard his BMX collection is insane.
Out of control.
Yeah.
And I mean, he doesn't just collect complete bikes. He'll collect all the parts and restore the bike.
Of course, yeah.
Piece them together. I'm still looking for a Jad.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a Jad in 25 years or something like that.
Yeah, if you go to those BMX shows, like they get the big one once a year at Dodger Stadium above there, every bike's there. It doesn't matter what there they are. And, money talks.
That's
you know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So now, you start working at the shop, like, and how do you start tinkering on cars?
So growing up, like when there would be a break at school, I mean, my parents didn't want me to stay home because I was a punk-ass kid.
Yeah.
So I'd go to work with my dad.
You got brothers or sisters?
Nope,
Only
just
child.
me. Just me,
That's me.
So, my dad would take me to the shop, and instead of babysitting me, he'd put me to work, right? Take this apart, put that together, do this, do that, and that's kind of how I got my feet wet. And then just kind of as I grew up, everyone said, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a race car driver or a Porsche mechanic.
Yeah.
And the old man would tell me, I don't want you to be a mechanic. I don't want you to have to, I want better for you. And I'm looking at him eventually and I was like, man, it's not so bad. We got a good life,
Yeah.
We're a good family. Nothing wrong with that. But I went to college and I came out of college with a degree in journalism. And I tried my hand at writing for the Daily News. And it was not satisfying, like emotionally, right? And so being, a 20-something-year-old kid with huge dreams and a huge ego and like I'm going to change the world, I decided that writing for the Daily News and not being happy was stupid. So I quit and I went to do something with cars, right? So I started writing for various car magazines as a freelance journalist. But again, my ego got in the way and I didn't like having my stuff edited, which in hindsight was probably good for me to have to be edited, right?
Yeah.
And then people tell me who know more than me, this is not right, you should try this. But I couldn't hear it, you know?
Yeah.
And so again, I wasn't super happy. So I kind of moved into something else and I started working selling parts in the automotive aftermarket. And I won't name names because that company wasn't my favorite.
Right.
But I needed additional income because I was, you know, a kid and I wanted to play as well as have money in the bank. So I was working 2 jobs. I worked for Fox Sports Radio.
Wow.
Behind the
right
scenes.
Up here?
Yeah.
Yeah, right up the street here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I worked there behind the scenes doing editing, and I kind of got into running the soundboard and all that stuff. And I did that for about 5 years. And it got to the point where I had to make a life choice. It was like, all right, Marco, you've left this aftermarket. Oh, so what happened was I got sick of the aftermarket place, and I went to work for my dad part-time.
Right.
And while working at the radio station. And so it came to the point where it was like, you have to make a decision. Do you want to do cars or do you want to do radio? But you got to pick.
Yeah.
And I said, well, it looks like cars are what I'm going to do.
Right.
So it was in 2004 that I started working part-time for my dad. And by 2005, I had made the final decision to like, you know, this is what I'm doing for the rest of my life.
Right. Now, as you're at the shop, you start working on the cars. Is your dad just teaching you everything, or are you diving into the internet, or what are you doing?
Well,
because those motors are pretty simple.
Yes.
But there's a thing about mechanics, and I always say this. They have a touch. If I get a wrench and hit a bolt, I always round the edges or whatever. But I could learn how to do the motor, no problem. I know I could do that, but it's the finesse of everything, getting the motor back in there, making all the fasteners and everything look like it was stock again. You know, like when you see a guy pull something apart and they put it back together, they go, what a meth head.
It's
like,
a wreck.
Yeah, like the liner on the roof liner's hanging, the fucking, you know, one of the knobs doesn't fit right. There's a wrong bolt here because they lost all that bullshit. But how do you start to get going on that?
Well, I'm a little OCD.
Yeah,
right?
me too.
And my dad was not. Like, my dad was all about, let's make this son of a bitch run awesome.
Yeah.
You know, let's make it perform. Let's use this fucking thing, right? I'm like, okay, let's do all that and make it pretty.
Yeah.
You know, like,
that's the guy I want to work on my car.
Exactly. So that's what I brought. Like, I brought the same, I took what he had taught me, how to make the cars go and how to fix problems and how to tune them. And then I added my own thing to that, which was, all right, we're going to do this pretty also. It's going to look 100 points, you know?
Right.
Sometimes the client's budget doesn't always allow for that, right? And so you work within the parameters you're given.
Yeah.
But, you know, I enjoy the geeky stuff. I enjoy tweaking out on making the bolts all face the same direction.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Making sure all the coloring is right. You know, making sure that you use original parts over reproductions because the reproductions are never as good. Even a 40-year-old coil is going to be better than a brand new coil. You know, and that's my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, and there are other guys who are the opposite, who think, why do you want to use that old crap? Let's use new stuff. And that's what makes different shops, right?
Right.
So I got into it. My dad, I keep thinking, you know, what did my dad teach me? And my dad taught me really everything. Like, it was trial by fire. You know, he's like, all right, do this. And if I screwed it up, he said, you screwed that up, and here's how you do it right. Or this is how you diagnose this problem. This is how you attack this. Okay, so now it's time for you to learn how to do carburetors. This is what you need to know, and so on and so forth. But then I took that and I went further with it. You know, I started using modern technology to help me tune cars better than he could do it.
Right.
Because,
like, what are you using?
well, you know, there's certain, like, you use a sniffer in the tailpipe, right?
Yeah.
But you use a wideband O2 now instead of just a 5-gas analyzer. You know, you put a car on a dyno and you run it on a load.
Even the
dyno.
carbureted cars?
All cars, man. Any car you can get, you put it
Wow.
on a dyno.
Wow.
You know, it just makes for a better end result.
Right.
You know, if you can load the running gear And you can see how it performs at various throttle positions and inputs. And it's carburetors are kind of like they're primitive.
Yeah,
right? I mean they're very primitive. You set them and then they're set for that day. Where the temperature is X and
totally
the humidity is X. So you kind of you got to make a lot of compromises with the old shit. Right.
Yeah, it's like elevation too.
Exactly.
Like right across America on a carbureted Harley FXR. As soon as you get to fucking, Vail Pass, Vail for 13,000 feet over, you're pulling over because you're getting the
doesn't go, man.
Yeah.
Doesn't go. I drove a 74 911 with carburetors up Mount Washington.
Yeah.
By about 3/4 of the way up, it was like foot to the floor in second gear and hoping it's going to keep going.
Wow.
But then I drove that car across the country and it made it.
Holy shit.
Great car.
Yeah.
The motor's still in my car. I still have that motor. It's just in a different car these days.
Yeah.
Now,
you're learning all that stuff, and then for pretty much at what year, so you're starting, 04 there, full-time?
Yeah, I started there full-time in about 2004.
And what year do you feel like you all of a sudden you're up and running as like a full-blown mechanic? Because, you got to be there's got to be shit. How do you learn? It had to be in your blood, like wiring, all that kind of shit. If you're restoring a Porsche, which you do over there, you do restoring, that stuff is crazy. Everything, like I'm saying, the fasteners of the interior and gauges and paint and all that shit.
I did my first full car for myself in 2006.
What was it?
It was a 1970 911.
Wow.
Full hot rod car. But I mean, that car I got as a rolling shell. I took it apart, did everything, put it back together, and I drove it for about a year. And then I sold it right in 2008. And I did pretty well.
Yeah.
And I'm glad the car is gone. I learned a lot, but I'm glad it's gone. The next car I did, I took what I had learned from my own car and I did it better. And I did it for a client, so I did it even better than I would have done for myself. Because as a mechanic, if it doesn't run just perfectly, I know what's wrong with it, but I'll fix it later.
Right, yeah. That's mechanics' cars always leak.
Yeah, man.
Because there ain't no money in that car.
You know what the problem is, and if it's not a big deal, you just let it go, And,
right.
I think it was, I want to say around 2009, I did my first complete, my own self, from start to finish. I did my first complete for a client. I did the project management. I found the client, and we discussed what to do. I disassembled the car, gave it to the body shop. The body shop worked with the client to get the look right, and I assembled the car, everything except for the interior, which I had my guy do.
Right. You got a good interior, dude?
I got the best interior guy.
Really?
Yeah. He's a well-kept secret.
Yeah?
Yeah. He's also second generation.
Yeah.
His dad did it, and now he's doing it, and he's doing it better than his dad did it, and
wow.
That's awesome. He took what he was taught and expounded upon it. And that's what I try to do. So we built this other car, and it went to Europe, where it is now. Since then, we've built quite a few cars. I built quite a few on my own. I don't know. The funny thing is, I don't know if I would ever say that, I'm great.
Yeah.
Because I always try to learn more and do better.
You like Singer?
I like Rob. Rob's a great guy.
Right.
I remember when Rob was just getting his feet off the ground. He was just getting the idea rolling in 06, 07.
Yeah.
And then he opened the place in 08, and the economy took a shit.
Oh.
Right? I mean, the economy fell. The
Fannie Mae, all that shit. Yeah.
Everything. Everything dried up. Right. And yet he's still around, which is awesome. I think that is so cool.
Yeah.
I love a lot of things about what he does with his cars. I don't know if they're my style.
Yeah.
But I also don't have $500,000 to make one my style.
Isn't that crazy, right? $500,000. But I mean, when you look at it, the hours in that fucking thing, it's like when I had a West Coast chopper and people are like, I can't believe how much they charge for that. I go, and they're still not making money. And the people that can't fathom that, the man hours to fucking do something like a Singer. When you look at the interiors, the paints, the motors, the dashes, the fucking, all the pieces on that, it's like, whoa, man, that is some serious next level.
They do a great job with what they do. And again, like all things that are, custom, they're not for everybody.
Yeah.
They're not going to appeal to everybody's taste.
Well, the stock people aren't going to like it, of course. But what I like about it is it's a driving. Well, unfortunately, the price, it's not a driving car either. But I'm saying if you could get one of those for like $100,000, and then you would have the ultimate driver,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yes, but then you wouldn't have that car either.
Exactly.
But you can't do that car for the price of $100,000.
Yeah.
Like carbon roof and carbon fenders and, bespoke 4-liter motor and full wiring harness. I mean, like, there's a lot of money in just hard parts in that car, And again, it's not something that I would build. Right?
What are you into? What's your style?
Well, my style is original. I like
OG.
I like factory vintage race cars.
Yeah.
Like 70s.
Like that one you had in your shop, that fucking that $1 million car, the white one. What is that?
That was a Carrera RS.
Yeah,
I mean, that car, and that car also had a lot of really good history.
Right,
too.
right. I get it, but man, what a car, right?
It's a brilliant car. I mean, it's a lot. It's fun to drive. It's scary to drive sometimes because it's not that it's the most powerful thing or whatever, but the cost of replacement far outstrips my ability to come out of pocket.
Totally.
Thank God for insurance. But I like what the factory did. I think that 9 times out of 10 they got it right. And
I'm a freak like that too. I love stock machines.
But see, here's the thing. I don't necessarily need it to be stock. I just need it to be built using factory parts. So when I built my car, right, my blue car, for example, I built it in a box. Okay, I said if it was 1975, right, or 1978, some guy had bought the car, drove it for a while, and sold it, and I'm the third owner of this car, right, and it's 1978. What could I put in this car that would be bad fucking ass? Like, what could I build? So, it had turbo brakes. It had aluminum trailing arms. It had a 3-liter mechanically injected hot rod motor with twin plug. I mean, it had the vintage racing seats. It had close ratio gears. And it had all that stuff, but it was all Porsche.
Right.
I didn't use aftermarket sports seats that somebody had made. I went out and I found factory ST Recaro racing buckets.
Wow.
Because it's important to me.
Yep.
It's not important to everybody.
It's all Porsche.
Yeah. Like not all people need that. When they build a car, they want the look. They don't care about the originality of it.
Yeah, it's like those guys that get those Mopars, like and then they have like Chick Foose or something do all the stuff to it. To me, it's like, but fuck, man.
I don't know, man. Like, I don't want to disparage anybody's taste.
I'm not either. I'm just saying, when you see a fucking stock Dodge, let's say a Super B.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, because I had a Super B.
Because they're badass.
Right. When you see that, if you're looking for something that's going to be completely handle and have AC and modern brakes and everything, you might as well just get a new car. You know what I mean?
That's kind of my opinion of it too.
Yeah, fuck it. Like, if I want, like, my dream car is the 50th anniversary 911. The weird sand brown one with the houndstooth. They made 911 of them or whatever.
Oh, the 911R.
Yeah. So it's like, that's a car for me as a driver. Someone smashes into me, fuck it, buy another one for the insurance or whatever. But if I'm looking at my other dream car, which is basically like a stock 964 in like the blue or root beer brown or the weird green or the Pink Panther, like I showed you all those weird colors.
Yeah.
Then that car is just complete. I want it to look like how it came from the factory.
Right. And yeah. So for me, like I said, there's a lot of manufacturers out there, guys making aftermarket parts, and they do a great job.
Yeah.
Right. And I put a lot of those parts in my clients' cars because you can buy 2 of those vintage seats for the cost of 1 Recaro vintage seat. You know what I mean? Like, so sometimes you make a dollar decision, right?
Yep.
And sometimes you don't. For me, it takes me years and years and years to build something for myself.
Yeah, because you're looking for parts.
That and because I'm poor.
Yeah.
I'm not made of money, Like, it takes me anywhere from 5 to 7 years to collect parts and build a car.
What car you got right now?
Well,
I know you got the Boxster, but I'm talking. Are you building anything?
yeah. For myself, it was a project that my father and I started together.
Yeah.
So it's going to have to be finished.
Oh yeah.
I'm not bailing out on this one. It's a 1966 911.
Well, first year or 64 is the first year.
64 was was the first year for the 911.
Yeah.
It's actually the 901, and then you had the 65.
Right,
which were really the first production year. 65.
Right.
So this is a 66.
This is the year I was born.
Cool. I bought the car from a friend of mine who used to work for Rod.
Yeah.
Actually, and so the car came out of Oregon. It's connected to a lot of people I know in strange ways. It's a very interesting car. But while pushing it out of the backyard at Rod's farm up in Oregon, the paint chipped off, and it was a rotten car. I mean, the car is out in the woods.
Oh yeah.
But the paint chipped off, and the original color showed through, and it was slate gray.
Wow.
So I'm like, all right, I got something here. This is a pretty cool car, slate gray. I wonder what color the interior is. So I contacted a friend of mine in Germany who worked at Porsche Classic. And
what is that place?
Porsche Classic is like the subdivision of Porsche.
And you can call them and give them VIN numbers and shit? Oh,
no. But I called in a favor.
Yeah.
And Porsche Classic is like the classic division of Porsche.
Yeah.
And, Porsche.
I've been to the Porsche factory, but it's another place that just specializes in the historic.
Correct. Yeah,
wow.
They're remanufacturing vintage parts that went out of production.
Oh, they do that,
They do. They're bringing a lot of stuff back. Porsche Classic is fantastic for guys like me.
Wow.
Because they're making available things that were long since gone. You know what I mean?
No shit, huh?
No shit. And,
wow.
And so my friend put me in touch with a guy at Porsche Classic, and I gave him my VIN number, and he did some maneuvering for me, and he got me a copy of the Cardex.
Wow.
So I know
they still had that, huh?
They have all that information.
Holy shit! They just built the 1 millionth one, so they have 1 million records.
They got a lot. That's for damn sure.
Wow.
So I got the Cardex for my car, and I found out the chassis number, motor number, gearbox number, and where it was delivered. They redacted the name of the person who bought the car for German privacy reasons, which I'm fine with.
Yeah.
And all the options that the car, how it was built, right? So I know it's now slate gray over red. It had a limited slip differential. It had 3-point seat belts.
Over red primer?
No, over red interior.
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, wow.
Slate gray with red interior.
Yeah.
A limited slip differential, and that era would have come from the 904. So it's like it's a very specific part that somebody had to ask for.
Right.
It's not something that they would put in normally. So I got the limited slip. It was delivered with 3-point seat belts, headrests on the seats, a radio, and an outside mirror.
Wow.
And that's the option list.
Yeah.
Right? And it was delivered to the Netherlands, to Ben Pon Porsche in the Netherlands.
Again, and it got over here.
That's it, and it made its way over here in the last 50 years at some point.
That's insane, right?
Right. And when I got it, it was a rotten ass car.
Is it matching numbers?
Unfortunately, the motor's long since gone.
Right.
So I started looking for things, right? And I ended up finding a 66 case that's 40 serial units away from my car.
Wow.
So I'm close, but it's not ever going to be matching numbers. But I was able to find a factory original blank transmission case. So it's like, it's just for a cool factor for me. It's not like it adds any value or anything like that. But I've been collecting parts for that car. So we found an original limited slip. We found a set of original axles because you have to use certain axles with that limited slip. I have a set of close ratio gears for the gearbox because I'm going to make it a little fun car. And we waited and we found seats, and we waited and we found control arms, and we waited and we found brakes. And so over the last 5 or 6 years, I've collected enough parts to finish this car.
Wow.
It took 3 years at the body shop because it was a long ass project.
3 years?
The car was rotten.
Really?
The car was rotten. And, they were doing it for me as a favor.
Right,
and
so they work on it when they get
put it in the back corner, and if you got nothing to do, zip on it with the welder a little bit. So anyway, that car is now painted and ready to be assembled. So
holy shit.
Yeah, I'm getting close to
I got to see that. You got to keep it, right?
Oh, yeah. I'll sell everything else before I sell that one.
Right.
You know, that was my dad's last project with me.
Now, I really wanted to have you on because of so many questions. I've dived down this rabbit hole, and I had Rod Emery on, which I think is a great starting kickoff because that's the 356. Mm-hmm. But then we get into the 911. Now, it starts, like you said, 64, but it's up in production at 65 all the way to now. But let's only cover the air-cooled. So that is 64 to 98. At what point, okay, because I get confused and I talk to people and you told me what's going on. So you've got the 356. Then you get into just what they call the 911 and 64 to 65. And then it starts into body shapes until it gets to the 964 and the 993, right?
Yeah, they had, because like the 356s are divided into A, B, and C. They have pre-As,
right,
which are like, 50, gosh, I don't even, 55, 50, 54, 55.
Same body though, the bathtub looking?
Similar,
right.
Very similar. There's a lot of differences within that stuff. And honestly, I don't know enough about it. Like,
yeah, of course.
I'm not the pre-A guy.
Yeah,
you know, I work on.
I just want to be into the 911s. Right. I'm getting into it because when you read, like people, I didn't even know until I got way into it that there was. These are designated factory numbers. They're all 911 cars. Correct. I'm going to let you guys know that. They're all 911s, but there's these codes for body shapes and styles and different fenders. So there's like 964 is red hot right now because of Singer and all that. But Singer was buying those because they were shitty. They're known as the shitty era, and now they're hot,
Well, it's like anything. For a while, in California especially, the early 911s, so from, let's call it 65 to, 77, right? They nobody wanted them because you couldn't get them through smog.
Oh, right.
Right? So the prices in California were depressed.
Right.
Right? And then California gave us the Savior Law, which was basically up to 75. It was a rolling smog law. So I think it came out, I want to say in, oh God, I can't even remember, 94 or something,
right,
or 93.
They don't have to pass smog?
Correct. They're smog exempt.
Right.
And then in 90, so let's say, I think it was introduced in 93. I was like 13 at the time, so I don't remember exactly. Yeah. But in 93, the car was, if it's 20 years old, it's exempt. So that means anything 73 and earlier. Then in 94, it was 74 and earlier. Then in 95, 75 and earlier, and then they stopped it.
Yeah, right.
So
that's what fucks up those 993s you were telling me.
Well, sort of. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then so that means that 75 and earlier cars are smog exempt.
Right.
And in California, that's wonderful because it's hard to get one of those early fuckers through smog, man. It's hard work to make like in 1980 something, to make a 69 911S or a 73 911S with mechanical fuel injection pass smog. Oh.
How do you do it?
You lean it out until it barely moves.
Wow.
And then the car doesn't run. It runs hot. They run like shit. And nobody wanted them.
Well, as soon as you leave smog, don't you just set it back?
No comment.
Yeah, but I'm just saying. I get it. Yeah.
But back then you did what you had to do to get it through smog.
Right.
So there were guys that couldn't get it through smog no matter what, and then so that.
But back then it was gangster. You could pay a guy $20,
exactly right.
$100 or whatever, and he would get it through a smog. Yeah, pre-computer.
Well, yeah, and I mean, like...
Yeah, I mean, because it's all jive. These motors are like fucking miniature.
They're race motors.
Yeah, they're not throwing out mad fucking pollute, like a 18-wheeler going down 5, you know.
But like you can't... Like a Porsche motor is essentially like a little race motor.
Right.
And they're designed to work in certain ways, and getting them to pass smog is like asking them to do the impossible. Right?
Yeah.
So... the market was depressed. Then this rolling smog law came up with the exemption, and suddenly people wanted these cars because they didn't have to pass smog anymore. But the funny thing is, the Porsche market was lagging. The Ferrari market was taking off.
Yeah.
The other collector car market was taking off, and the Porsches were always sort of a depressed market.
Why do you think that is?
Because they were so ubiquitous, because they were everywhere.
Yeah.
Because people said, oh, it's just a VW, blah, blah, blah.
They were everywhere, and they are everywhere right now. I walk to the gym every day. Every day, I see at least 5.
Right.
At least 5. And that's a low number. I could sit out there and have a coffee at Starbucks and see 15 of them in 1 hour.
Easily.
It is radical.
You don't see that anywhere else in the world.
Nope.
So anyway, what happens is, well, I mean, I kind of got off track here, but like the end result is that once that smog exemption happened, suddenly the cars were accessible again, and it made sense to own them, and so people bought them up, and the prices kind of came up a little bit. And then there was a spike. I want to say it was like 05, 06. The market really just took off.
It has to be where Ferrari becomes completely accessible.
Inaccessible, yeah.
So what happens is you're at the concourse thing, and they have a couple Dinos that all of a sudden go for over $1 million, $2 million, $5 million. And I talked about this story. I started comedy in 2009, December, and I specifically remember sitting out in front of the Comedy Store signing up for the open mic, and a gold 308 Ferrari pulled up. The guy had a for sale sign on it. It was $23,000, and I fucking love that car. I love the Magnum PI Ferrari, and this was gold, and it was factory gold, and I'd never seen one in factory gold. I always saw red or black, and the guy goes, "Yeah, I'm selling it." Now, once those Ferraris went through the roof, that made these cars all of a sudden become 80 and 100,000.
Yeah, it took a little while though.
Yeah, it did.
Because I remember in 05, 04, the Carrera RS market was in the hundreds.
Right.
You could buy an RS for $100,000, and everyone said you were crazy.
Right.
Right. Then in 2007, they're $300,000. And everyone's like, wait a minute, what happened? And then you blink again, and now they're $800,000.
It's insane.
The market will never return to pre-2008 pricing. It just won't.
No.
Because the good ones have been bought up, and the junk ones have been cut up and made into and been fixed or
part of
and used to build the good ones again. Like you cut up some so that others may live. So they're just not out there anymore.
Right.
There are still the occasional barn find or the occasional gem that will pop up. It's just fewer and farther between.
Right.
Because there's just only so many. They're not making those anymore.
Yeah, the air-cooled is gone.
It's a finite resource.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's kind of why I think the market got stronger or whatever.
Also, you've got cool people involved all of a sudden, like a Magnus Walker.
Yeah.
So then...
he's good for the brand.
Right. So then there's a guy like me who interviews Magnus Walker. I go to his house, his warehouse, and in 78, 79, I was telling you, my 6th grade teacher, Miss Foster, had a Targa root beer brown, and she drove me and my buddy Jimmy Barchi home from school, and I was like, that smell of that interior, the horsehair inside there, that smell of that interior got into me like fucking cocaine, and and I wanted one forever, and then I pushed it down for years, and then I walk into Magnus Walker's warehouse, and it's like, holy shit, just boom, it fucking comes unloaded again, But you got Magnus, then you got Singer, you got Rod Emery, and you're seeing these cars, and before it was kind of known as the doctor's, the dentist car, the fucking real estate agent or whatever, but when you see cool people driving them that you would think drive a 69 Mustang Shelby GT or whatever, then you start opening your eyes of like, why are they driving this? Oh, I realize why. Because they have soul. They feel like something when you're in them, man. They do things. They make sounds. You're on the ground. It's like a go-kart,
Yeah, the attraction is real, man. Like
it is.
People don't understand it until they drive one, and then they're like, what have I been missing?
It's the sound too, and when you hit it, it's like woo, woo, and they're not even. Look, man, they're not like fucking 200-mile-an-hour cars, those older ones, but they feel like it when you're on the ground.
Yeah,
and they have soul. You know what I mean?
They definitely get into you.
Yeah,
they get into your blood, and they make you want to drive. They make you just want to go someplace. Like I built my first Porsche when I was in high school. Right. After I had the Bug, I sold my Bug to build another car, and my dad had a 914 rotting at the side of his shop.
914.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we took this 914, this rotten ass 73 914 4, and we made it into a 6-cylinder. We used factory parts, factory oil tank.
Like the 914-6.
Exactly. We used factory 914-6 parts, and I built this close ratio gear hot rod 914, and I would just drive. Like, everyone else after school would like go and hang out at the mall, and I would go driving to Malibu.
Right.
Or my buddies and I, they all had their Camaros and their Mustangs, and after I sold the Bug, I finally had this Porsche, and we would go out to the drag strip. We would go out to the what was it? It was the Palmdale. I think it was LA County Raceway.
Yeah.
And we would do grudge night on Friday night, and we would just a 914. I ran a 13-second quarter mile in 1996, man. I mean, that's badass.
Hell yeah.
And it was fun. We had a good time,
There was a big story last week. Road and Track guy was talking about how Porsche market has become ridiculous because now the 914 is worth money. And if people don't know, the 914 was basically a VW. It was called a Porsche / VW in Europe, and it was just a piece of shit. And now these cars are going for 30 to 50 grand, right?
Yeah, I mean the 4-cylinder cars are in the 30s to 50s. The 6-cylinders are 6-figure cars.
It's insane.
It's well deserved. They are.
You like that car?
I love the 914. Until you drive one, you just don't understand.
I like it.
The platform is such a good platform. It's easy to put a huge motor in it and overpower it, and it ruins the car.
Yeah, that's dumb.
But if you keep, like a 2.5, maybe 3-liter motor in it, reasonable horsepower, the cars are phenomenal. They're great travelers. They have way more interior room than you'd think. They have 2 trunks.
Wow. Two trunks?
They have 2 trunks, one in the front and one in the back.
Because it's a mid-engine.
Whoa. I mean, I've packed more shit in a 914 than I have in a 911.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. They're really wonderful cars. And, they're just they were underappreciated for so long. But what happened was the price of the 911.
Yep.
They got so high that everyone's like, I really want one, but I can't afford it. Well, that 2-liter 914 looks pretty cool. Or that 914-6 is only 25 grand. And it's got a 911 motor in it. I'm going to go buy that. And then suddenly those are all gone.
Yeah.
And then now the people are buying up the 2-liter 4-cylinders. And now those are all gone.
Yeah.
And then everyone's like, oh, shit, what's next? Well,
that's what I was asking. So now we're looking at 928, 924, and 944.
Exactly. The 928s are coming up in a big way, man.
Yeah.
Big way. I mean, the 928 is an albatross because very few people actually work on them. And we have the tools and we have the books, and we don't want to do it.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, you said the service on them is ridiculous, right?
I choose. It's nice to have this option, but we choose not to work on them.
Yeah. It's a water-cooled car.
It's front-engine, water-cooled V8.
Hard to get around in it. What's
some of the later ones are complicated. The early ones are not too complicated, but they are complicated vehicles. They were the flagship. They were supposed to replace the 911, so Porsche dumped all the technology they could into it.
Isn't that amazing? Where they were almost going to replace the 911. Yeah. And what is that? It's like 82 or something. 78 when that car comes out. 78. It's incredible to think about how they were going to do that, Yeah,
but it is aluminum this, aluminum that.
Yeah.
They're a true grand touring car. They are wonderful on the highway, but they're big and they're ungainly, and they can be made to be all these wonderful handling cars. They were so ignored for so long that very few people choose to work on them, and there are specialists throughout the country and the world that love them, and I've driven some good ones, and they are fantastic. I have no desire to own one.
Yeah.
It's just not my thing.
I almost bought one. I'm glad I didn't.
The German Camaro, man.
Because like Magnus got this cool green one, and all of a sudden I was like, I could get one of these for like 25 grand, and then you talk to like 4 mechanics, and they're like, nope. Don't do that.
Yeah, that's right.
Because 25 grand, and then the 25 grand you got to put into it, you might as well buy a 911.
Yeah. I have a friend who bought a 1990 928 GT with a 5-speed.
That's the one.
That's a bad mother, man. It's a good running car. And then he gave it to someone and spent a bunch of money on it, because it needed exhaust and headers and, air conditioning work and service work and oil leaks. And now that it's all done, it's totally worth it. but not everyone can afford to do that.
Yeah, right. You got to have deep pockets.
Yeah. And again, they don't drive like 911s. They drive like a Porsche, but not like a 911.
Yeah.
And I like them. I just don't want to own one, and I just don't want to have to work on them.
So you say stick with air-cooled, because there was this great story also. Did you see this one this week? The 996 will never be worth shit. You know, so people are looking at the 996 now, which is you can get one for 20 grand mint. And I was telling you, oh, maybe I get a 996. It's like 20 grand. I can drive it around and beat it around. But then I started reading there's this bad bearing in the motor and all this shit.
They're misunderstood cars.
And they fade like a motherfucker. The paints are done bad. And it's got those ugly headlights no one likes.
You see, again, in 5 or 10 years, you're going to look back and go, man, I should have bought that car.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's like anything, right? The rose-colored glasses of hindsight. I don't think the 996 is a bad car. I love the 996.
Service-wise?
Fine. Don't mind them.
Really?
Yeah, they're not always easy. And yeah, they have been known to have IMS bearing problems, but every Porsche since the beginning of time has had its fair share of issues. The 27s had the head studs. You know, the 87, 88 Carreras had the valve guides. The 993 have valve guides and secondary air issues. I mean, congratulations, you own a Porsche.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they're all going to have something, right? So there are things in place that can help, mitigate the failure on a 996 car, M96, M97.
Really?
Yeah, you got the IMS bearing upgrades and solutions offered by, Ellen Engineering and Jake Raby. I mean, those guys have put a ton of time and effort of engineering into solving the problems of those motors.
So you think it's cool, it's okay to get one then?
I love them.
Really?
Great. Yeah, they're totally underappreciated.
Wow.
Now,
because I see some great ones. I saw this fucking killer one for 25 grand. It's yellow. It's a 2004, and it's just
Good year.
mint.
It's a good year for
Yeah,
those
so you
cars.
want 4 or 5, I heard, because of the bearing. Like, it's gone then.
No. I mean, forget the motor part of it.
Yeah.
Right? I like that car. Like, I like the 03, 4, and 5 because they figured it out, right? Like the 99s, they were just starting to, it's a first-year model.
Right.
Had teething issues. 2000, 2001 doesn't have a glove box.
Oh, whoa.
I mean, it's because they hadn't homologated it yet for racing, but they needed the extra space in the race car. So the 02 cars got the glove box, and like that kind of little shit makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And like in the Boxster, like I've had a 2000 and a 2001 Boxster, but the 03 was a better redesign.
Yeah.
The body was a little different, a little nicer. Interior had the glove box. My car didn't have a glove box. Pain in the ass.
So you say get a 996 then.
I don't want to sound like I know everything.
Right.
I don't know anything. I'm an idiot. But I saw the market for the 964. Right. Like I saw what was going to happen. I remember specifically. It was 2006. I've just broken up with my girlfriend of 2 years. I'm back at work. I'm like working crazy hours with my dad. And a guy comes in with a blue, it was like a metallic blue C2, like 1991 911.
Love that car.
Beautiful, beautiful car. It had like a pale interior. The car needed some service work, right? And then it hadn't been driven and had an intermittent problem. He's like, look, put some miles on it and tell me if you can find the problem. So I got to drive this car as a commuter car for like a week.
Yeah.
I fell in love with it right then and there.
Yeah.
Turns out I solved the problem. Guy turns around and sells the car. Now he only got 15 for the car.
Whoa.
And the car it had like 35 or 40,000 miles.
Oh fuck.
It was gorgeous. And this was in 2006, right?
Yeah.
And I turned to my dad, I go, Dad, we need to buy a 964. He goes, fuck those things. Those things are pieces of shit.
Yeah.
They got leaks and electrical and I don't like the bumpers and I'm like, trust me, man, you want to buy these things. And that was in 2006. Fast forward 2 or 3 years. Rob Dickinson is now building bitchin' ass cars, the Singers, out of these 964s. The market goes away because he buys up all the cheap ones.
Yeah.
And all that's left are the really good, really low mileage cars or the garbage.
Yep.
And so the prices are either super high or out of line for what they're selling. You know? So the market's like, it's hard to find a good C2 these days.
Can't find one.
I recently know of one that had 20,000 miles and sold for $70,000.
Wow. Okay, so here's a question I have for you. If you're looking for an air-cooled, what years are like bad? Like I read somewhere like an 87 had some weird big problem. Like, You know,
the valve guide issue I was mentioning.
yeah. What is that?
Well, when Porsche builds motors, they source specific parts from outside vendors, right? Porsche doesn't make every valve guide. They buy valve guides in bulk from their suppliers, right?
Yeah.
They got a bad run of valve guides in '87, right? And so that means they were soft. The valve guides were soft, and they wore out prematurely. So the '87s had a tendency to run through valve guides. And so if you have an '87 911 and it hasn't had a top end, chances are it needs one or will need one shortly. That's just a known fact of these cars. Same thing with the early magnesium case 2.7 motors. They pulled head studs. It's what they did.
Yeah. And you can fix them, right?
Everything can be fixed.
But it's big money?
Not necessarily. I mean, you need a top end rebuild on an air cooled car. It's going to cost you some money.
Yeah, what is that? $2,500 you're saying?
2,500?
Oh, I don't know.
No. A top end rebuild's like 10 to 12, depending on
Whoa.
what's going on.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, pricing is it depends what you need. You know, if you're doing a ring and valve job on a car, you look at the rings, you look at the pistons, you look at the cylinders. Is everything in spec? Does everything work? But it's just time and money, man.
Yeah. Now, how much is it an hour at your shop?
Our current labor rate is $140 an hour.
$140 an hour.
And we work hard for that $140. Let me tell you, we work really, really hard for that money.
$140 an hour, man.
It's cheaper than the dealer.
Now, what is your favorite era of the air cooled?
Well,
for reliability, driving.
If I had to drive a car every single day, I would want an 86 911.
86?
I want an 86. I love the vents and the dashboard and the knobs and switches of the 86 and later cars. The air conditioning tends to work better because the vents are larger. The knobs and switches are a little bit more modern, just a little bit, and I like the vibe of those cars. They got just enough modernity.
Yeah.
They're just modern enough.
86 to what?
86 to what? I don't understand.
Like, what would be the chop off on that? Like 86, 1986, 7, 8?
No.
Just 86 only.
If I had to pick one year, I'd pick 86.
Wow.
Because in 86, it was the last year of the 915 transmission. The 915 trans was used from 1972 to 1986. There were updates throughout the course of the run, but I like the 86 with the 915 because the clutch assembly is smaller and more lightweight, and the gears and the gearbox and everything's a little bit smaller, and it takes away less horsepower, so the cars feel more lively.
Yeah.
Granted, the gearbox is more prone to failure or wearing out than the 87 and later cars, but I just have my preferences,
Yeah, right.
So it's a personal preference thing. The 86 is my favorite year. 87 was the introduction of the G50 box.
So the soft guides and the shit.
Well, yeah, but the G50 gearbox had a totally different type of synchromesh. It had a totally different type of internal working. The gearbox itself was larger. The clutch and flywheel assembly were larger. The gears inside the gearbox were thicker and larger to support the horsepower of the 3.2 Carrera motor. Now, the 3.2 was introduced in 84. So 84, 5, and 6 are essentially the same car, but the 86 gets the later interior that I like.
Right.
Which is why I would lean towards an 86.
Now, you don't recommend a Targa, right?
I don't not recommend a Targa. I'm not much of a Targa guy,
right.
But I have a 914, so I can get my fix when I need it.
But they leak, they rattle.
They squeak, they rattle, they whistle. I look at Targas as cars that should be driven with the roof off.
Always.
99% of the time, and you should put the roof on when it rains.
Right.
Or you got to park it somewhere. That's how I approach a Targa. So for me, a Targa wouldn't be a daily car, but it is for a lot of people. But just not for me personally. I have no problem with cabriolets. I'm just not a top-down person.
Yeah, me either.
I got a bald-ass head.
Yeah, me too. And it's fucking 900 degrees here, melanoma and shit.
Yeah, man,
plus I got a motorcycle. If I want that, I fucking get on the bike,
Exactly.
I also, I like old school hardtop, inside, closed. I don't like whistling and shit.
I like sports cars.
Yeah.
And to me, sports cars, like proper sports cars, should have a roof.
Exactly.
And that's not to take anything away from the Miatas or the Sprites or the MGs.
But it's true.
I don't like open top cars. That's just not who I am. You
Yeah.
know, I like roof. So
Yeah.
I choose for the coupes, always.
Now, Porsche only at your place?
That's it.
Okay, because I was going to ask you. I've I've fucking fallen in love recently of these M4s going around, man. The new M4 Beamer is just unbelievable. You know anything about those cars?
I know that I don't own one.
I know that.
No, I like BMW. Always have.
Me too.
I've come really close to buying a Beamer. The only problem is I get scared when I read the internet.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way about Porsche. They get scared when they read shit on the internet, like the IMS bearing problems.
Yeah.
You know, you read about the Beamers and they got
SMG tranny. I was just reading about.
Those things are garbage. I have no idea. I've never driven one.
Couldn't believe what I was reading.
You know, you read about like oil leaks and Vanos problems and blah, 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 blah. But, you know, then you start to think of it in terms of the Porsche and it's like, they all got their issues. You fix them and you move on.
Yeah.
You know? I'm just not a Beamer mechanic, so I'm not going to get into fixing it. So I got to pay someone. I'd rather drive a Porsche.
Yeah, right.
You know, like I'll drive my Cayenne. Well, I got some friends that I just recently met. We took a vacation for the first time in forever, and I bumped into some people from Vegas that have a Beamer shop, Southwest BMW in Vegas, right? Really great people.
Wow.
Yeah, they're young like me, 34, 35, something like that.
Oh, we could call them and get Beamer questions in, right?
Yeah, if you want. Give them a ring, man. Devin and Hannah over at Southwest Beamers, man. They are great, great people. Turns out Devin and his partner, Tony, not business partner, but like his friend, Tony, they just did a BMW race car, an M4.
Wow.
So like we were talking about kind of what they did and like, you know, the can system and putting in Motec. And I mean, just hearing them talk about the car, I'm like, that's badass. I want to drive that car.
Yeah, man. You know? I mean, these Beamer M3s and M4s, there's fuck, man. You can get a good one. I saw a good one yesterday on eBay.
Yeah.
It's a 2003 with 11,000 miles on it. And it was that kind of mustard one. Remember those colors? They made mustard or weird blue, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's two weird colors. And it only had 11,000 miles on it. It was like 26 grand. I go, God, that's a killer car. He's over in Glendale.
An M4?
Yeah, but then it had the SMG2 tranny. So I'm like, oh, well, let me read about that. I fire it up on a board and I'm like, oh, fuck that car. You know what I mean? Immediately, it was page after page after page of what a shit tranny the Ferrari designed it, you know? And oh my God.
Porsche had the Tiptronic.
Yeah, remember that?
And the Tiptronic is kind of like a slush box, right? And then they came out with the PDK and everyone's like, it's just a fucking hyped up Tiptronic until you drive one and you learn about it. And like, it's right. So I'm thinking now that it's a second generation SMG in the Beamer, I'm sure they got it right. Like they can't not get it right.
Yeah, I don't.
I don't know. I'm not a Beamer guy. I don't
not when you read the boards. You know what I mean?
I got a friend who's got a shop around the corner from me, Castro Motorsport. And he does a lot of BMW stuff. He loves the M cars. What he does is he just pulls the running gears out of them and sticks them in early cars. So
really?
he'll take like a E30, which is like an 80s Beamer, and he'll put like a 90-something M3 motor in it, motor and trans. And you got yourself a badass little hot rod.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, so, like Porsches, like we do with those, that's what is going on in the Beamer circuit, too.
Yeah, it's also when you look at the Beamer, you go, yeah, and they go, well, fuck, why would I buy that if I could just get an air-cooled 911 and have it keep going up, right?
I mean, because dollars, man. I mean, it comes down to dollars. You could buy a Beamer for 10.
Yeah.
You could buy an early 911 for 50.
Yeah,
It's a bit of a change.
But I'm saying if you're going to get like a new M4, which is 65,000, you might as well just buy a 964. Right?
Yeah, but they're very different, though.
Yeah, they're totally different.
You got to remember, those are separated by almost 20 years.
Yeah, but I'm saying like money going up where M cars,
they'll take a hit.
Yeah, big time.
All new cars will take a 15% hit off the lot.
Of course.
But for some people, having that modern convenience is way more important than having that car that's going to go up in value because they just don't care.
You're right, man. I mean, when you get in a modern Beamer, dude, like, I get it. Right, this person behind me has an M4 right now.
Right.
And you get in that goddamn car and you go, this is a machine, man.
A rocket ship.
Oh, and just, it reads your phone right away. It reads text to you.
Yeah.
It goes 200 miles an hour. It It has cooling seats so you don't get swamp ass.
Exactly.
It's got a carbon fiber roof that looks fucking badass. And killer, it's got Ozzy's Boneyard on XM cranking as you're going to San Jose to do a show. I mean, that's fucking, and you're going to get there. You know what I mean?
And the thing is, you're going to get there in comfort.
Yeah.
That's the thing about old cars, is they're old cars.
Yeah, 911's a lot like riding a Harley. You get out and you're like, oh, fuck.
Well, wait a second. The 964s and the 993s, those cars, very comfortable.
Right.
Those are very good, usable cars.
Yeah.
The air works great. They got good climate control. Wipers are good. They figured out how to seal them up so they don't whistle too much.
Yeah.
The suspensions in the 964 is still trailing arm, but in the 993 you got this this 4-link rear, which is way more. I mean, it's modern, man. Like, it just drives different.
That 993. That's the one they say to get for handling out on the road, because those old 911s, they just fucking swished around and you would crash, right? Because the motor's back there.
Yeah, but see, the thing about Porsche is they basically spent the last 50 or 60 years trying to figure out how to make them less tail happy.
Yeah.
They're trying to outdo physics.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do, but I mean, they're getting really good at it.
Yeah.
They sunk their teeth in and haven't let go.
Oh, those new ones are insane, right? Those GTRs.
I drove Rod Emery and I.
Yeah, his.
We took a little cruise.
I saw you guys on Instagram. Yeah.
And I've driven a lot of Porsches in my life.
Right.
Having driven that GT3 RS, the 991 RS.
His.
Yeah, his car. It's so brilliant. Porsche did such a good job with that package.
Yeah.
It almost makes you not want any of the old stuff. Almost.
No, really?
Almost. Yeah. Because it does so many things right.
Yeah.
It's so confidence inspiring. Like, you go into a corner and you think you're going a little fast, and the car just says no problem.
Wow.
It has so much grip, and it has so much power, and it has all the things that you could ever want. And then you get out on the highway, and it's comfortable.
Yeah.
And it's relatively quiet and easy to drive, and you're like, this is literally the whole package.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's like, how do you get better than that? And then they come out with the next year.
Yeah.
And it's like worlds better,
The only thing I don't like on that car, it's the only thing, and you can answer me what it is, because the car I love, the 50th anniversary, doesn't have it. But when you look at the back wheel wells, right next to, say you're opening the door, to the right, there's the shoulder, and then there's vents there.
Yeah.
What is that?
Intakes, man.
Intakes for the motor? Or for air brakes? To cool off the brakes?
It's all aerodynamics.
Oh, I got you.
And getting air into the engine compartment for cooling and breathing and all.
I thought it was to send air onto the brakes.
Some of it, it's all kind of works together. The aero package.
I can't stand that though.
Well, they started with the turbos, because that used to feed the intercoolers on the turbos.
Right.
And then they've found a way to make it work for everything else they needed it to work for.
Because
it's all functional.
If you get the 50 year, it doesn't have it. And what it does is it makes it look like it has shoulders. The body doesn't fucking flow sexy to me, man. It blows my bum. It bums me out, because I love that car.
Right.
But I'm like, I can't take that. Look there.
Well, then you
it looks like shoulders.
I love it.
Yeah.
Again,
that's just me.
It's personal preference.
Yeah.
But see, what you would like is you'd probably like the previous version GT3.
Yeah.
The one that didn't have all the openings and the stuff like that. So Porsche's.
I got you.
Porsche's really cool about that. They do so many different things, but yet you can always follow that arc of continuity.
Yeah, there's like 30 911 versions right now.
Oh, there's
today.
So many.
Yeah, man,
so
it's hard to keep up with,
Yeah.
I love the new Targa because it's going to be all sealed and everything, and the way that roof goes into the trunk and everything.
It's gorgeous. Too.
Oh, I love it. And, in the classic blue. Oh, fuck you! That car's badass,
it's
man.
Beautiful for sure.
Well, I can't thank you enough for doing the show, dude.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. I was kind of worried about what we were going to talk about.
Right. Well, we could talk cars all fucking day long.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, you're a deadhead.
Oh, I love the Dead, man.
Yeah, how'd you get into that?
My freshman year of college, I went to UC Santa Cruz.
Oh, yes. Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah, Banana Slugs.
Were you into like Mother Hips and all that? Did you see the Mother Hip? Like, were you going to Catalyst?
I went to the Catalyst a lot.
How great is that place?
Yeah, that place, man, you could like you could reach out and touch the band.
Yeah, I played the Catalyst many times.
Oh, I love it there, man.
Great,
Yeah,
right?
Was it on Pacific? I think,
yeah,
right?
man, right down the street from the boardwalk.
Yeah, but I was so faded, I didn't remember most of the shows.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what happened was we had this. Okay, so I was living on campus, and we had the dorms. Right?
Yeah.
And I was at Stevenson College, so they had like individual houses, and in each house, you figure there's, let's call it 10 rooms per floor, three floors.
Wow.
Right, and there's 2 or 3 people per floor. So anyway, my freshman year, it was like kind of one of the last months or so. The resident advisors got permission to lock the doors, and we had a house party.
Whoa.
Nobody who didn't live there was allowed to come in.
Right.
We had this raging house party, and I remember ending up on the floor of some girl's room, like she was like the hippie in that particular floor,
right?
And she had a Grateful Dead thing going on, and I was like, I've always wanted to listen to them, but I never really got into it. And she's like, start with this, right? And she handed me, I think it was Axomoxua.
Oh, the first record.
Right? And I'm like, okay. And I listened to it. I'm like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I went back to LA, and I'm talking to my buddy. He goes, dude, you got to listen to this. He puts on Terrapin Station.
Yeah.
And down the rabbit hole, man.
Yeah.
After that, it was so good. And I ended up working at a record store.
Oh, yeah?
And yeah, but I went back to DC after my freshman year, and I worked in this record store, and I just started going through the Dead's catalog.
Wow.
You know, and I got a bunch of their like live stuff because one of the guys I worked with had followed them on tour for a year or two.
Yeah.
You know, so he had tapes and CDs and just like all the bootleg shit that from recording.
Did you see him live?
I never got to see him live,
Fuck.
man. I know. I'm totally bummed. I found him too late. Jerry was already dead.
When
I found him.
Yeah. Well, you and I should go.
I'd love to go.
Yeah,
man.
we're gonna. There's something super to me about Porsche and VW that relate to the Dead. It's crazy as far as like, you know, it seems so California to me. Like there'd be these guys rolling the Dead, and they're in those fucking air-cooled buses, you know, and they're rolling down the highway with that fucking motor, that Soul, you know, with the Deadhead sticker on a Cadillac, you know. But, you know.
There's this like continuity to it all, you know, like this arc where you can follow.
You listen to the Dead while you're working?
What if they come on? I sing with them.
Yeah,
you know,
but it seems like a perfect shop music. You know, instead
really
of playing
good.
like Metallica and you're wrenching on a bolt, like turn that fucking shit off.
No, I don't do. No, man, we listen to mellow stuff. Like I put on the classic stations. You know, what is it? Deep Tracks.
Yeah,
I put on Deep Tracks. If I had to pick any Dead music that I really loved, it would be Workman's Dead.
A Working Man's Dead, incredible.
It's unbelievable.
New Speedway Boogie, man. Please don't dominate the rap jack.
Right.
Oh, you see the movie yet?
No, I was going to watch it last night. My wife said no.
Oh.
We wanted to watch something else.
Oh, man.
I'm going to go home and watch it tonight.
Well, okay, let's tell everybody where we can find you. You're on Instagram.
I'm on Instagram under MCO Chillin'.
Isn't it the shop name?
It might be TLG Auto.
It is, dude. Don't give him the wrong one.
I don't know, man.
Hold on. It's TLG, right?
Yeah, it's TLG_auto.
Okay.
There you go.
And
TLG_auto.
And then do you have...
I got a website, which is TLGauto.com.
Yep.
On Facebook, TLG Auto. Or actually, Facebook is TLG Porsche Service.
You got any celebrity clients?
I do, but I can't name names, man. I respect people's privacy.
Of course.
I can't do that.
But do you remember the first celebrity that came over and you guys were like, holy shit, that's such and such?
Okay, so I'll tell you some celebrities that are no longer with us.
Oh, okay.
Like, with our shop that I remember growing
Carradine?
I think so. My dad used to work on Eddie Van Halen's Speedsters. Or excuse me, is Eddie Van Halen's Roadster.
Whoa.
Yeah, back in the early 80s or late 70s.
Wow.
Peter Weller.
Peter Weller, yeah.
RoboCop, yeah, man. I remember he signed a poster for me.
Wow.
There was a guy named Mark Dacascos who was in this movie called Only the Strong, but then he went on to like host Iron Chef.
Right.
So he was a client.
How about Seinfeld?
Seinfeld is not a client.
Right.
No, he works.
Oh, he goes to some guy over here, right?
He goes to somebody down in in Torrance.
Oh, I got you.
A really good, well-known shop in Torrance. But I'm sure there's many mechanics that he uses that are very specific.
Totally.
I'm trying to think, man.
Rock and rollers, though? That's the ones that fucking get me going. Yeah, Eddie Van Halen. It's not no cooler than that.
Let me tell you, that's probably my dad. Like my dad always was like pumped about that one.
Yeah, right.
My current celebrity client list is small.
Yeah.
But the movies he's been in are massive blockbuster movies.
Wow.
Like, one was a trilogy that took place in New Zealand, and then he did another one that is a Disney film with Johnny Depp.
Oh, I got you. I know.
So he was So without naming names.
Yeah. These guys come over and they got multiple cars, or
actually, you know what? He only has one, but he's got a really good one, man.
Wow.
Yeah, he's got
an old one?
He's got an old 73 911.
Man, when I was in your place and that fucking cool old one from Venice Beach was there, that blue one there, you know, the guy's redoing or whatever. It's like that.
Yeah.
It's like Mexico Blue or what?
No, he's local.
Oh, local, whatever. That car, man, you said he's had it like forever.
Almost 40 years.
Well, that fucking car was killer, man. Yeah, and then the red one up on the lift, you know?
Oh, man.
You just put the motor back in?
The turbo?
Yeah.
Yep, that car's been in that family for 40 years or so.
Wow.
It's really cool to see that.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen like that very often, you know?
So you think if you get a 993, hey, you just drive it every fucking day?
I would.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it really depends on what you buy, right? So like if you get a 993 with super low mileage, unfortunately, the value is in its low mileage, right? So if it's like 20,000 or 25,000 miles, you know, the more miles you put on it, it's going to hurt the value because of what you had to pay to get it, right? But if you get a car that has like 60,000 miles on it or 45,000 miles on
What's too many miles? How about 120?
Keep going, man.
Really?
Here's what's so brilliant about Porsches.
Yeah.
Especially the early ones. They're made to be rebuilt and live forever. They'll outlast us.
No shit.
They'll be here long.
So you get one with like Rockabilly Jay was telling me, like, just get one with 120,000 or 140. Who cares?
So what?
Wow.
Just rebuild it and it keeps going, man.
That's the fucking ticket then. Get one that's what I was telling you. Get one with some door dings and everything so you're not like, fuck, man.
I would always tell people, if someone came to me with 3 or 4 cars, right? And one of the cars was like this super low mileage original whatever, you know, it had no service history, nothing, you know, and then they bring me a car that has, you know, 80, 90, 100,000 miles but has a stack of records. I'd say buy the one with the higher mileage.
Wow, yeah, because the other one's been sitting in
it's an unknown quantity.
Yeah, fucking seals and everything rot out.
The car with the ton of mileage has probably had everything break that's going to break, and it's replaced. You know, like I got a client with a 993. It's a 95. It has 250,000 miles. The motor's been rebuilt twice. Every component has been replaced at least once. And it's his favorite car. He has 9 cars, and that's his favorite one.
Wow.
He drives it all the time.
Wow, that's fucking cool.
You know?
I'd like to get a 95 black with like 100,000 miles on it.
Just run the wheels off that.
Yeah.
That's what's so great about them.
One last question before you go. If you get one and say you want to paint it like those cool, like the pink one or the fucking that mint green, those weird, like almost Hemi car colors, you know? I was showing you like all those ones that were at the show. When you paint it, do you pull everything off the car and then paint it? You know what I mean?
It depends how far you want to go.
But you want to go all the way, though. I don't want to see...
If you want to go all the way and you don't want to see anything, you got to tear it all the way apart.
What's that cost?
Oh, God. Depends what year the car is.
Let's just say it's a 95.
Oh, God.
You find a 95, you want to... I want this car to be fucking... The paint sucks anyway.
If you want to color change the car, if you want to pull all the stuff out of the trunk and in the engine compartment, and it's... hundreds of hours.
Yeah.
Hundreds of hours. Yeah.
Wow. So what do you think?
That's just in labor to take it apart and put it together.
That's not even the paint.
No.
So what, 50 grand?
Roughly, maybe more.
Whoa.
Because, you know, once you start taking stuff apart, you're going to have to start fixing shit.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'd say buy a car, and if you want to color change it, just color change it. Don't worry about all the other shit. If you see a little bit of red under your blue.
Fuck that, man.
You know?
Yeah.
It's color changes. Proper color changes are tough, man.
God.
To do it right is tough.
You're better off just finding the color you want and paying big money for it.
Well, yeah, you know.
Because that way it came factory, that color anyway.
You're never going to get it as good as the factory because they paint it when there's nothing in them.
Right.
You know, they paint these bare shells.
Yeah.
So the paint goes everywhere. If you want to paint it that way, you got to make it a bare shell.
Yeah.
You know.
Dude, thanks for doing the podcast. Super cool, man. And you got to come see some comedy.
I will.
Get out of the house.
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah.
I've got an infant, you know.
Yeah, I hear you, but still. And everybody go get your car worked on by this man. Great shop. I went over there. It's fucking cool. And follow him on Instagram and his website and your Facebook or anything.
Yeah. Facebook, TLG Porsche Service. Instagram is TLG _auto. Website's tlgauto.com.
Yeah, thank you. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Handmade Let There Be Talk. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. That's how we keep the show in the top 100. Keep rocking. Candles lit.